Fitness education. Where do personal trainers go to get better at their craft? In this latest episode, Mike and I are going to talk about academia and traditional education versus private paid for classes, workshops, mentorships, live and online, and figure out how do you figure out what is best for you. Welcome to the Principles of Performance podcast, where we discuss how to optimize your health, fitness, and performance. Whether you are a coach, trainer, or clinician looking to become one of the top 1% in your field, or a fitness enthusiast looking to learn strategies of how to perform at your highest level and be your very best, we draw on decades of experience of working as coaches, consultants, and trainers to top industry professionals and elite performers, athletes, and teams all over the world. Your hosts, Eric DeGatti and Mike Perry, investigate and challenge the most popular coaching, training, nutrition, lifestyle, and recovery protocols, as well as bring on our friends and colleagues who are leaders in the fitness and performance industry to join us in the discussion. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, as well as stick around to the end to find out how you can get access to special resources, deals, and learning opportunities. Now, let's get to the show. And away we go. Here we are with the Principles of Performance podcast. I am Eric DeGatti, along with my friend and co-host, Mike Perry. Mike, another one, just you and I to round out the summer today, talking about something we're both very, very passionate about, and that is fitness education and the state of where it's at right now.
Yeah, it's something that we've been involved in for, I know for myself, upwards of 15 years, you a little bit longer. And boy, has it changed. It's not what it used to be, and it's changing so quickly. I'm not even sure where it's going, but we do have some insights on some things we're seeing. We'd love to kind of talk a little bit today about like the trends, what we've seen, what works, what doesn't. So it's going to be good to kind of talk shop a little bit.
Yeah, I have some strong feelings and some takes and some projections myself. So let's first clarify what we're talking about when we say fitness education. You kind of have to put it into one of two primary buckets. There's academia, right? That's your standard education that you're getting through an institution, whether it's a 2 or 4 year college, versus for-profit education, which is one of the primary certifying bodies, or an independent body like ourselves who are selling you education. And so they're two different models. And so with that, the experience that you have in academia is also a little bit different now. And there's a gap that we have. And I had this conversation with a colleague of ours when we were at Perform Better a couple of weeks back. And because he saw it in he's seeing it now in physical therapy, and we're going to see it in fitness. That one of the challenges I had with my academic program is that we didn't spend a whole lot of time in the gym, right? We spent time with metabolic carts and we spent time in the lab, but a lot of that stuff isn't what I'm doing on Monday morning. And so there wasn't a lot of practical experience. And then what happened was 5 years ago, we get hit with this pandemic, and now you have no experience, no hands-on. And so, as our colleague was saying, with physical therapists, you have now all this virtual training that's gone on. And we also have it from the people in who are in academia who are graduating with kinesiology and exercise science degrees that got those degrees without really ever stepping foot on a gym floor. And so I know how that hampered me, and that wasn't during a COVID time. I can only imagine what that's going to do, and the trickle down effect of this little pocket generation of people that never got hands-on experience in academia, unfortunately, because of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because if you want to be a good in-person coach, you have to coach people in person. And you can't do that over Zoom. I mean, you can, but reading the room, learning how to command a room, and learning how to actually get your feet, dirty and get out there is something that unless you do it, you'll never truly understand how important it is. And I would even say the same goes for even coaches that haven't been on the floor as much recently. Like I still coach quite a bit, and I love it because it reminds me to stay sharp and it keeps me going. So it's going to be interesting to see what the average sort of personal trainer coach looks like over the next sort of 4 to 5 years, because I do think you're right. There's definitely going to be a gap in skill sets and a gap in experience.
Now, one more note on academia is that here's what I found, and some notes that I can give you as someone who coaches and mentors and educates trainers now in the private sector, as well as someone who used to hire trainers. And I just had a conversation with someone at a major club chain about the hiring process. And Mike, you go through it yourself and finding coaches. When it comes to academia, it doesn't necessarily follow the same um, latitudes in terms of your institution when it comes to exercise science. And what I mean by that is, okay, well, if you're finding someone who's a math major or someone who's a business major and they're coming out of an institution, that's an Ivy League institution, there is considered this a grade above that person is when they go out and try to find a job. Here's what I found, and I'd like your feedback, Mike, is when you see where someone has graduated from with their degree, it doesn't always correlate to the fanciest name on the back window sticker. And you have programs that are not necessarily considered Ivy League or something like that have incredible exercise science programs, even at the junior college level. I'm on the advisory board for Brookdale College. I'm sorry, not Brookdale, Raritan Valley College here in New Jersey. And Keith Burns runs an incredible program at a 2-year associate's level. And I think I've had some people that I've talked to in that program that are learning things that they're not getting in more quote unquote prestigious 4-year programs. There's certain institutions that have become known as kind of cornerstone programs for exercise science, but that doesn't always match up with the most prestigious, like I like to say, that back window sticker. And so I don't know if you found the same with that, Mike.
There are a few universities and colleges that when I see resumes, I lean towards. Like if I see a Springfield College resume coming through, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to that.
100%. Springfield is kind of
but
legendary.
they're an outlier though. You know what I'm saying? Like not every place takes it like they do. So I would say that they're sort of the leaders in it. But I'll be honest, the more degrees that I see after their name at a younger age, the more I get concerned, because it shows me that maybe they're really good at being in school. But if you've been in school for 6 to 7 years and you've accumulated, a PhD, you've accumulated your master's and your bachelor's, but you've never actually gone out and coached people in the real world for more than a month or two at a time, then honestly, that concerns me, because this is an industry where you get better by getting on the floor. And that's really what it's all about. So for me, I actually look at their internships, where they coached, who they learned from, because that to me is going to be a better hiring criteria when it comes to actually getting coaches to perform and be good on the floor.
Couldn't agree more. And with that, when you see if somebody's been through an internship with, Kevin and Mike Boyles, right? That they've been in a place where there's a standard of excellence. If they've
Right
done
to the
it,
top.
if they've done it with Cressy's place, something like that, there's a standard of excellence as opposed to just I'm going to go to whatever local gym will take me. And unfortunately, we don't do a good service for kids in programs when they get placed in gyms that don't know how to handle them, and they spend most of their time folding towels and doing things that aren't going to necessarily help them when they get on the floor. And so being able to get even by osmosis the real world experience. Then there's also the short side of a lot of the academic programs don't teach you communication skills. They don't teach you rapport building. They don't teach you how to command a room, like you said, if you're going to be working in a team or group setting. A lot of those things they don't teach you. They also don't teach you anything regarding career building and the business of training, unfortunately. And so with that, I also am gonna give them a pass in some respects, is that because what has changed in the 25 plus years that I've been in the field is there's so many different paths that you can take and so many different opportunities that unfortunately we don't also do a good job of educating young trainers about what they can do and even the possibilities that You could go work, as an employee in a large chain gym, and depending on the brand name of the gym, you can actually do really well and have a career there. You can go and work at a smaller facility like yourself, or a place that I own. You could go and open up your own place. You can go and just go door to door and do in-person stuff. You can do hybrid where you're doing stuff online. You could be completely online. You could work with teams in a consulting role. You can work as hired as a team coach. Then you could go into corporate fitness where you're working corporations. There's wellness programs that you could do. There is such an infinite amount of possibilities of what you can do now in fitness, as opposed to, hey, I'm just going to go to a local gym and train people for a certain amount per hour. And because of that, there's so many paths. How do you prepare a student in the window that they have in academia, or even in the window of a certification, to get ready for any one of those things? And that's what we're going to talk about later, of kind of where you need to kind of pick your path in your niche to get better prepared. Let's circle back though and talk about, because it's something that we can't ignore, is the impact of the pandemic, right? Depending on who you talk to, and I think when we had John Rusin on for his first time around with us, he said we lost probably 60 to 70% of our industry. And so what that means is you have a fresh crop that's in there, and it's encouraging, but these people now don't have a lot of experience, and they're coming in a very different way than when we came in. There obviously was a huge shift to online courses, and we can get into the rabbit hole of what that means. There's been a big loss of communication skills, and that's just not a fitness thing. That's a societal thing, where you can go, you go walk down the street, and the amount of people that will smile and say hi to you is significantly lower than it would have been 5+ years ago. Even my kids noticed that when, they were on campus at school. How many people would walk around, say hi, and talk to each other where they had their heads buried in their phone afterwards. That's a societal thing, but it's transferring over into a field that you need really good communication skills. And then, like I already also said, there's that lack of hands-on training that you didn't get to have if you were coming up and entering the field during that time. So the impact of the pandemic, I don't think we've even seen the last of yet, and I think we've only seen a glimpse of. I think there's way more trickle down effects that are coming because of what's happened to people that have been educated and brought into the field during this time.
Well, look at like online training, for example. Like I was doing a little bit of online training before the pandemic. I know you were as well, but then the pandemic came and then everybody was doing online training. So we created basically this almost excess of online trainers that have no in-person experience. And now what's going to happen, as well, we've already seen it, as gyms are back open, as sort of we're back to our normal, you're seeing these individuals try to get jobs, but they don't know what they're doing, because not everybody wants to, do a training session in their basement anymore. But it's an interesting situation, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of people trying to stay in the online industry, and because they're not good or not organized, they don't have a good product, they're not going to last. And if they try to make it in real world and they don't know how to talk to people and actually have a conversation without acting incredibly awkward, then it's going to be really, really tough.
Well, I've been interviewing a couple different companies in terms of doing marketing for my personal online training. And here's what some of the startling things are, is that they're working with people who are selling online fitness who have never trained another human being, who are selling programs at high ticket programs. And some of them are actually doing well, and they've never actually trained another human being other than themselves. And so what's the downstream effect of that? The downstream effect of that is that the quality of the training is really bad. And so because of that, someone tries that, and then they say, oh, well, that doesn't work. And then someone like myself, who's got decades of experience, now tries to sell them on online training, and they're jaded and they're guarded and they're not going to want to buy. And so now you have a much more cautious society, where everybody was flooding to the market, like you said, because they needed something. Now you have a lot more options. And because you have a lot more options, if you're not good, it's really hard to stand out with all the noise and all the competition. And then on top of that, people's expectations are that it's going to be bad because there is so much bad training out there. And so that's one of the challenges of the flood of the quick dollars of online marketing. Because once I clicked once on Facebook or Instagram that I was interested in a marketing program for online fitness, I got 30 people hounding me in
Yeah.
my DMs and everything else because there's so many people out there trying to sell this get rich quick, make $10,000 a month doing online training, and you need to have zero skills. And there's such a low barrier for entry where for us, we had to kind of earn our way through the ranks if we were going to get anywhere. Now, before we go kind of, and be the unks and the the boomer guys talking about back in our day and the old school model, we can't ignore online education, right? And online courses. And as people that sell online courses, are we, part of the problem? Here's where I've kind of landed with it is that and we've had this discussion, Mike. I almost don't want people to buy one-off courses with us. We sell them, but we sell them more as an introduction to say, hey, I like what these guys have to say, and now I want to learn more. That's the reason, only reason we sell them independently. We've even tossed around the idea of not even letting people do that because we don't want to have the opposite effect that we've seen where they try it, but they don't get the full experience. They watch it kind of while they're, eating or driving or doing whatever else, and they don't get the full experience. They go and do it wrong. They say, hey, this doesn't work. And now they'll never come back to us again. And so I've seen that. I've seen that with education companies that people who have taken the courses online get a significantly different experience than the people who did it live. You don't build a culture, you don't build a community. And so, do online courses have a place? Here's where we've landed is that they have a place, but they're reference courses for us. They're reference courses. So when you come to our live course and we break down whether it's our 244 system or our belt system or our key questions or any of those things, we don't expect you to absorb all that in 8 hours. So I want you to go back and have the online course. That's why even in our live courses, we give you the online course package with it because we want you to go back and reference this. We don't expect you to all met. We want you to go back and use this as a reference tool, not as the standalone tool. And so that's the main reason why we're leveraging our personal online courses. I don't know about you, Mike. I have right now on my laptop, I can open up probably 8 online courses, if not more, that I paid for from really smart people that I haven't even completed a section of yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and the same thing. And again, I look at those as textbooks. They are investments or textbooks that I can go to at any point. And if there's a certain thing or a certain topic that I want to dive into, I know that I have that as a resource. The way that my mind works is if I'm focusing on speed or that's a subject that I'm learning about, I will basically try to find as many speed courses as possible and, as many references as I can and try to really just dive into that. So I look at online courses as like a textbook. It's there. It's not something you have to live by, but it's always there as a resource. And, but if you're not eventually taking that information, coaching people in a gym setting, in an immersive experience where, people are throwing baseballs at a curtain while you're trying to teach, you'll never know what it's going to be like to actually coach someone in person. So, but yeah, 100%. I'm guilty as charged. I was actually just searching for an old ebook the other day from a course. So, absolutely. But again, hands-on, getting to coach people, getting in front of them, watching three-dimensional movement, learning how to read people, learning how to communicate. I mean, there's so much to learn from the in-person stuff, and you just can't get that online.
Now, let's talk about the old school model of the education that we kind of came up with in more of the budding days of the fitness industry, like late 90s, early 2000s. And so the way it worked was back then is you came up with a concept for a course, whether you called it a certification or as a specialty course. You put together a trifold brochure, you sent it to a mailing list of trainers, and if it came to my house, I'd sign up, and you'd go to a hotel ballroom and you get 50 to 100 trainers and coaches in the room and you teach your thing and then you go and do that all around the country. And so that was the model that we went by. And we not only were students of that, but we were instructors of that. And I traveled all around the world doing that, and so did Mike. And so it came down to All right, so how do I know which course to take? And there was very much a choose your guru type of mentality. And it was, well, if, you know, you're going to be an FMS person, well, you just do anything and everything that FMS teaches and you don't take anything else because it may go against your biases of that's your thing. And so I tried to not do that. I tried to be agnostic and take as many courses from as many people as possible that I could fill my bucket with it with different tools I could use. But a lot of the industry became choose your guru, and you went down these very stringent paths, and you were looking for confirmation bias of things that were just echo chambers of what you already learned. Now, a lot of these were teaching really methods. They were just teaching you movement screens. That's what we were teaching. They were teaching you kettlebells, which you were also teaching. They were teaching you stretching techniques. They were teaching you one of these things, right? Which were great. They were awesome. But that's why when we decided what we're going to do with our courses, we're going to make it about principles. Is to say, how do I take all this information and actually make it usable information? Because what we saw with that old model was, and I saw it working in professional sports, is the training staff would take a kinesio tape course, and now 60 players have tape all over their body. And then a month or two later, it goes away. And then they take a Graston technique course, and everybody's bruised from getting scraped, and then they forget about that. And then it would just kind of be this whatever cool thing of the time was. You do it with everybody on Monday, and then it would fade away when you realize, well, this doesn't work for everybody. And that was one of the flaws of that old school method.
Well, yeah, it was the shiny new toy, shiny new skill, shiny new course mentality. You have the situation where you get excited about it, and because of the culture that a lot of these companies put together, people were really excited and they felt like they belonged. But what eventually happened is again, these systems don't necessarily always integrate to what people are looking for and what people want. And when you do have like a highly specialized skill like kettlebell training, for example, I mean, I was very fortunate to learn from Pavel and Brett Jones and RKC Strong First era, and I learned so much from those guys. But I also realized that if I'm going to train Gen Pop, I have to have other skills that I can be able to teach and not just kettlebell training. And that was something that was a valuable lesson as well. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's about the principles. Like the principles of strength training are the same whether you use a dumbbell, a barbell, a kettlebell, your body weight, etc. It's progressive overload, said principle. I mean, you name it. So the implements are great, and certain implements yield better results depending on what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, you're still, stressing the system, trying to get adaptations, et cetera. So it's pretty simple in my mind, but people fall in love with the implement.
Coaches and trainers, are you ready to build a business of clients that never want to leave? The Forever Client Challenge is a free 3-day experience where we break down 10 proven principles that the top 1% of all the coaches in the world use to create loyal, long-term clients. Whether you're a coach, leader, or business owner, this challenge will give you the blueprint to transform your career, scale your impact, and finally build the business you deserve. Spots are limited, so register now at foreverclientformula.com. Now, let's get back to the show. There's two other challenges with that old school model. As one is now, if you wanted to pick your guru in 2025, how does a young trainer even start? Right? Because a lot of the legends, and part of the reason why we do this podcast, quite frankly, is to honor the legends that we stand on the shoulders of. And because a lot of the younger generation, it's startling to me that we could be at a big conference and they don't know who Mike Boyle is. They don't know who Eric Cressy or some of these people are. And so they were rock stars to us coming up. And so that the fact that you don't know them, right, is an incredible disservice to the industry. And that's why we're doing what we're doing and trying to have all these heroes of ours on the show. The second thing is, how do if you ask your younger trainers on your staff, Mike, who do you follow, right? You may get a good answer like a Mike Israetel, who's actually smart, but also has a very good way of handling social media, or a Lane Norton or something like that. But you also could be getting, some buns and guns Instagram, influencer that has zero scientific or practical knowledge to share. But because they get a lot of likes and they have a lot of sizzle and they show cool exercises, that is now what they're driven towards. And they don't know the difference between someone who's really, really good at imparting wisdom versus someone who's just really, really good at putting together reels. And so, even if you wanted to pick your guru, there's so much confusion on who is the industry leader. If I wanted to really learn about a thing, I don't even know where I would tell the young trainer to start. And that's why we kind of do this show, is to say, start with these people. You want to learn about the foot and ankle, Emily Splickle, start there, right? And then I'll give you a cascade from there. You want to learn about, speed training, start with Derek Hansen, Lee Taft, Dwayne Carlisle. Here you go. Start with them. And at least we're trying to give you some direction, because it's not easy right now with all the noise and a lot. I'll tell you right now that a lot of the best people in the world at doing this that we look up to are not the best people on social media.
No, a lot of times they don't have time because they're literally too busy coaching and developing athletes, not trying to get the right lighting and, the right angles. So, but we definitely sound like the old guys, but, these sort of legends of the industry, nothing's changed. It's still their information is still out there. They're still good, but now we've just got a bunch of fluff that is sort of clouding the industry, and people don't know which way is up. And then, not to mention the fact that people can very, very easily manipulate data, cherry pick data, based so they can make it fit with their own confirmation bias, et cetera. So it's almost like you don't even know what's real at this point, and you just have to go out there and, like you said, look at the sources and the people that we sort of look up to and have interviewed. Those are the ones that we know are doing it the right way. They're doing it with integrity, but they're doing it based off of science, empirical evidence, and just a whole lot of passion for coaching.
Well, here's where I'm going to go against the grain and not sound like the old guy that was better back in my day, is because I also had this epiphany that I've shared with you and other colleagues, is that as much as I love that, I loved getting to go all over the world and teach people, and nothing, gets my juices more going than being in the front of room in a live setting and teaching people. But I also realized that weekend course model, it doesn't work as a standalone. And it pains me to say it, because I was doing it and I love doing it. And I'll give you an example and I try to say this without hubris or conceit, but I am about as good as anybody in the world at teaching the FMS system to people. But I also have the humility to know that 80% of the people probably forget 80% of the things that I taught them by Thursday after the course. And that's not by my fault or theirs. That's just, it's way too hard to absorb all this information. If you learn anything about motor learning and how it's absorbed, it's a model that's really hard for it to work if you don't have supported mechanisms around it. Now, if you, like I said earlier, you have an online course that you're now going to refer back to, or you have like what we've tried to build with our mentorship, and that's why we've seen so much success with it, is now you have accountability and follow through steps and someone checking on you to say, you need to submit a case study to me and show me that you understood what I taught you 2 weeks ago or a month ago. Those models work. I'm going to learn a bunch of stuff in 8 hours and think it's going to, that alone is going to make me that much better. It falls on its face. And so if you don't take that and say, wow, this is really good, I need to take this and run with it, and I want to dig even deeper. That's what we did, right? Is we took FMS, or you took kettlebells, or we took any of the other courses. We said, all right, now I'm going to dig deeper, and I'm going to read more about this, and I'm going to practice this, and I'm going to keep practicing, and I'm going to follow up, and I'm going to go stay in touch with that instructor, which, you and I both always encourage to do. Ask us questions. Nothing makes me more excited to get a question from somebody who was at my course 6 months ago. But if you don't do that and you just take the 8 hour course and you think it's going to move the needle, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. And I'd like to say that as someone who sells live courses, who loves teaching live courses, unless there's a backup system. That's why we include our online with ours, or we have the mentorship. Unless you have that backup system, it's just not attainable to have that be something that's going to stick.
Yeah. No. And I've always, tried to really instill when I'm coaching people, it's like, hey, just because you're certified, it doesn't mean you know everything. There's still so much to learn. So, this is the starting point, and your journey should be, you know, practice with humility, because there's so much to learn, and there is so many people that have been doing this for so much longer. So, I tell people, like, especially with kettlebells and stuff, like, you're just getting a taste of, this and where this can go for you. So yeah, it's one of those situations, man, that just I don't know. I just don't know. But
Well, I'm going to keep circling back to the pandemic, and the reason why, anytime you have your entire industry flip and restart to a certain extent, there's going to be huge impacts. And one of the things that changed was, if you look at what the education is, right? So when we started out, all of the education was about being better at training. And people all had their different niches of what that was, whether it was performance, whether it was rehab, whether it was body composition. They all had their different niches, but it was all about being really good. And every course I would take with the goal of, I want to be the best in the world at doing what I do. Then what started happening, and this really went into overdrive into right around the same time as COVID, is the fitness business industry took off. Now, when I was a facility owner, I wish I had this education, right? There wasn't the Vince Gabriels and the Pete Dupuis and Mark Fishers and Alan Cosgroves. They weren't really doing that. I went to, one of the Cosgroves things towards the tail end of when I had my facility, but it wasn't so much a thing. Thomas Plummer was kind of doing it. But it really became a thing to where now there are at least a dozen really, really good fitness business mentorships, like some of those that I've mentioned, and a lot of them we've had on our show, that are really good at building the business of fitness and how to own a facility and what you have to do. And again, I wish I had that. I would have been a better facility owner, trust me. But what's unfortunately happened is that quest and that desire to, I want to be the best at training, has kind of got left in the dust a little bit. And we've lost a lot of that. And so many people are fixated, as I said earlier, especially on the online side. Hey, quick bucks, $10,000 a month, and I don't even have to be certified or have to be any good at this. I could just even use AI to do it. Or I could be a facility owner, and as long as I have the right models, I can make a lot of money. But are you actually even good? And so, business development versus training excellence, business development is winning right now. And unfortunately, that is going to also compound the fact that training excellence has gone down significantly.
oh yeah, it has. And I remember when Hormozy was, running Gym Launch, and they were in their heyday. I knew a bunch of people that dropped a lot of money on their programs. I remember I actually at one point was thinking about it too, but I denied to spend that type of money, but declined rather. But so one of the things I saw is, you see these people and they'd be posting, and a bunch of people in the gym, and you're like, wow, you're looking, they're killing it. And then, like, 4 months later, there's no more posts. There's no more gym. Look at how crazy things are going. Why? It's because you invited people over for dinner, but you don't know how to cook. And that's the reason why they didn't stick around, is you told everyone that you had this amazing product and this amazing service, yet when they came and experienced it, you couldn't deliver. And once they have a bad experience, they're not going to go back. And that's what happened in the world of sort of the business development. You get all these leads that come through the door, and if they have a crappy experience, those people are going to just go right out the other end. So that's exactly what I think happened. And that's because, again, like I said, you're inviting people over for dinner, but you don't have anything good to serve. So before you go ahead and try to spend all this money on lead acquisition, this and that, perfect your craft. Make sure that what you're selling is really good, or is as good as it can be for now, but continually try to find ways to make it better. And if you do that, and then down the road, obviously get leads through the door, man, you're going to have a much better business model.
And to your point, is that this is not a knock on Hormozy or any of these business development. They
No,
did
no, they did their job.
they did their job, right? They filled your gym. They got butts and seats. You screwed up because you couldn't deliver the service. And so the really good coaches will tell you that I can't help you unless you're actually good at this. Because, and I've had this discussion with our friends who are really, leaders in this side of the things, is that do you understand that if they really do their job well, it may be the worst thing that ever happened to your business? Because now everybody in town is going to show up. They're going to do their job, get everybody in town to show up your door. And then because you suck, you lose all those people. And now all those people are going to tell all their friends that you suck. And you're never going to get them back again. And you can't put that back in the box. And so you have to get your ducks in a row first. Do you need the business development? Yes. I just telling you right now, if I had the business development, my facility would have been much more successful, and it may be open today. But if I wasn't good, it may have been the worst thing that ever could have happened. So now, how do you choose what course to take? What is best for your career path? Well, that's where we tell trainers to kind of reverse engineering and say, well, what does your perfect day look like? What would you want that to be? Do you want to be a manager, a facility owner? Because everybody just assumes that's the step in the career path, but it doesn't have to be. I know trainers who are employees who do extremely well in certain situations. So you don't have to necessarily be that. What do you want your day to look like? Do you want to be training people all day? And if you are going to be training people all day, who are the people you really want to work with? Who are the people that light your fire? And so with that, reverse engineer to say, okay, well, if I want to work, I really want to work with, Mike, right now your passion is lacrosse. If I really want to work with lacrosse, you need to kind of figure out a way to immerse yourself into that and learn not only as much as you can about being really good at lacrosse and training lacrosse players, but you also have to get yourself involved in the culture of that to where it's not going to start out where like you're training, professional lacrosse players. It has to start out with your local club teams and your local high school. And hey, can I help out? And then now you get some things because people think if you niche down, all right, well, that's going to limit me. No, it actually does the opposite because you're going to get the lacrosse player's mom with the bad back if you know how to do that, or you get the dad who wants to lose 10 pounds if you know how to do that. That's just going to be runoff. But you'll still get to focus zone in on. And the more successful you get, the more you can completely, hone in on one thing that you want to do. So then that leads to what is it that you need to do in terms of choosing your education. So I always say it comes down to one of three things when it comes to what is best for your career. Do you have a marketing problem? Now, when I say marketing, it's not necessarily just, hey, getting leads or Facebook ads or any of that stuff. I'm talking about marketing your brand. Is your brand known? And or what are you known for? If I got on the elevator with you and I said, what do you do? Can you tell me succinctly before I get off on the next floor? Here's who I am. Here's who I help. Here's why I'm good at it. If you can't answer that question, the more vague you are, the less like I am to go to you. That's what I mean by your marketing. How well of a brand have you established, and do you have an expertise that makes me want to seek you out versus somebody else? Because if you're just, hey, I help people get fit, guess what? So does Orange Theory, and they're cheaper and they have way more advertising dollars than you have. I can also get fit by myself watching YouTube videos or going to the gym without you. So give me a reason why I should go to you. If you don't have that, you need to build yourself the skill set that you have a brand and a niche. Or you have a sales problem, that's where the business people come in. I don't know how to get people in the door and convert them into clients. That's where you need the business people. Or if you don't keep people, like what we call forever clients, then you have a service problem. And then you need to really just learn how to be better at being a service business and learning how to be a better coach and trainer. And so that's going to drive where you should choose. So like you said earlier, how many people, Mike, did you have in your kettlebell classes that were gurus with kettlebells, but couldn't hold a conversation with somebody, and then all that skill didn't translate to to the people that they actually worked with?
I've seen it happen quite a bit.
Right?
Seen it happen quite a bit.
Right? How many people do we know that are taking their 18th speed class, yet they train, stay at home moms. Like, do is what you're learning going to actually go back on Monday and apply? And so that's where you have to look at it, who, and then when you're going to choose that, goes back to who are you going to choose? Who is the best in that field? And how do I get around them any way, shape, or form? That's what we did. That's what I did. I knew what I wanted to do. And that's going to change. I thought, for a long time, for decades, I worked in the world of performance. That's all I wanted to do. And then I've gotten kind of evolved to the point where that's gotten old for me. That's not what I want to do anymore. It's for a lot of reasons. And so it's okay if that changes. And thankfully I have the wisdom that I can pivot and go to a different demographic. But in the beginning, if you're looking to build and you're going to choose where am I going to invest my education dollars, it has to be in whatever is going to move the needle for whatever your weakness is based on those 3 points I talked about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to sort of a career path, you got to make sure you love it, right? I mean, when I recommend for every single coach everyone, coach from like middle schoolers all the way up to people, that are 80 or 90, coach as many people as you can because you're going to learn a lot. But eventually you want to try to find that demographic, whatever it is that just makes you feel like, wow, I'm really making a difference. This is exactly what you're doing. Find something that you're passionate about because it's just going to enable you to have a more of a successful and fun career because it's, training can be tough. And the sooner you can find a demographic that sort of lights you up a little bit, like you said, I think the better. And like you said, I mean, if there's a coach or a mentor that you can literally help with or find yourself around, that's one way to do it. I mean, before we sort of wrap this thing up, but growing up, I knew early on I wanted to follow Gray Cook and I wanted to follow Pavel. And I did that side by side. If there was a certification out in Massachusetts, I'd hand out manuals and pick Brett up at the airport and stuff like that. Or if there was back in the early days, if there was an RKC or an SFG or something up in New England, I'd try to be a part of that. So, surround yourself with the people that you want to learn from, and that's another path too. But just absorb as much as you can because that experience, like you said, through osmosis, is you can't put a money value on that.
Yeah, one more thing I would note is that the people you want to learn from are way more accessible than you think, right? Um, I guarantee you, if you send an email to any of the names that we've dropped or any of the names that's on our list, or I can tell you right now, you send us an email and you need something, we're going to help you. Our right thing right now is to leave a legacy and to pay this forward. And we're more than happy to get that. And that's sometimes, getting spending some time. And I can't tell you how many times I said, hey, can I just spend an hour with you? Can I come observe some of your sessions? Can I, pick your brain and I'll pay for it? And those are just as valuable as taking a course or buying a certification. Now, we do this also because we're obviously very passionate what we do. And we're also, it's very disheartening that there's a lot of people that enter our field who have that same passion and same aspirations, and they're out in 6 to 24 months. And that's what the research shows, is that you have the average trainers gone within 6 to 24 months. And so the reasons for that, we've mentioned a lot of them already, is they have false expectations that, oh, I'm going to start training pro athletes. Oh, I'm going to start making $100 an hour plus and all these sorts of things. It's also a much more crowded marketplace. Why should I go to you versus anybody else? And there's so much more noise that it is really hard to stand out. And then you have the expectation has been dropped because, and this is kind of my, Debbie Downer type of prediction, is that it's going to get worse because of everything I've mentioned before, is we're on the precipice of a generation of really crummy trainers that are going to come through our industry. Now you can look at the glasses as half empty and say that is going to be a challenge because everybody now thinks trainings doesn't have value. And so it makes it harder for me now to sell, even though I do. Or you could look at it half full to say it's going to be easier for me to stand out. But you're going to have to hustle for that. You're going to have to create what we call distinction. And if you can't create that distinction, you're going to be a 6 to 24. You're going to be out. And so how do you do that? Find mentors, get involved in intensive programs that are more than just an online course, and and the last point, we can go on a whole, rabbit hole with this, is I can't tell you enough. Social media is not education. Social media is there for people like us and others like us to introduce you to our thought process and who we are. It is so you then click on that and say, I like what they had to say. I want to learn more. And then you continue down that path. Or you find out who we're referencing and you go and read that book and take that course and learn from that person. It is not the end. It is the beginning of the journey. To think that because you watched the Twitter video on 4 hacks to fix your low back pain, that you now can work with people with low back pain is so foolish that unfortunately that a lot of people are falling into that trap. Those are clickbait. That's entertainment. That is not education.
Yeah.
Advertising and entertainment. Yes. That is not education. Education is where someone teaches you something that you can actually turn around and apply and demonstrate. And so that's why you need mentors. That's why you need to get around people who have had success and are doing what you do. Social media is entertainment. It is an introduction at best into education. It is not education.
Man, you are fired up right now. You must have had an extra cup of coffee this morning or something. I love it.
I'm pumped up on yerba mate and pure anger running through my veins for people that will look at our industry and still laugh it off and not take it seriously. Because I always say, I take what I do very seriously. I don't take myself very seriously. Like, we poke jokes at each other, and like, at the end of the day, we joke about our profession all the time, right? But at the outside person looking in, I want them to take us seriously as professionals. And so that's why I'm very passionate about this. And so that's why for the next generation of people that we coach, train, and mentor, I don't want you to have to answer the question when you tell people what you do and they ask you, well, like, do you have a real job too? Or is that you just do that? Like, people don't think that this is actually a real career. And so that's what I want to change. And this industry is very much in its infancy, and I get it. But because of all those things that I've kind of, bitched about earlier, I get scared that we're going to go back in the wrong direction. And I know I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of colleagues who've been around in this game for a while are saying the same things. And that's why we're trying to right this ship before it goes the wrong way.
Amen. Amen. I got nothing to add to that, buddy. You took care of that one for us.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up at that before I get on another rant. So we want to thank you for listening. We want to let you know that, hey, if you have questions, you don't know what to do or what direction to go, that not only have we done a lot of this, but we've had 150 guests that are some of the best in the world. And if you need to know what direction to get into, shoot us an email, shoot us a DM, and tell us, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's what I'd like to be. Where should I go next? And we'll be there for you. And we want to thank you for listening and being part of this and also being part of the industry. And this has been the Principles of Performance Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Principles of Performance Podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to learn more about our courses and mentorship program, visit www.principlesofprogramdesign.com, where you can book a free strategy call with Mike and Eric to gain insight on how to achieve your potential. Also use the special discount code PRINCIPLESPODCAST10 to receive 10% off any of our live or online courses. We appreciate your attention and your commitment to be your very best.